California as well with the kelp forest, which I think look really stunning in stereo and in the dome format that we're trying to produce for. But I was going on a family trip to Joshua Tree, and I figured I might as well take my Insta360 with me. And kept some there, so, for a 4-day trip, I think. This last March or April, I forget which month it was. So I'm based in LA. It's maybe an hour and 45, 2 hours away. Joshua Tree for us, so it's a nice short little break. And we try to get there that time of year. It's always beautiful, beautiful temperatures. It doesn't get too hot. Maybe it gets up to about 90 in the day. So the afternoons can be a bit warm. The rest of the year is kind of almost unbearable, I would say, until you get to about October or so. But then it cools down again, but then you get really high winds, so you kind of balance the two. But March and April is just spectacular time if you can get there, but you have to book really, really early if you want to camp there. So I went with my wife and my 6-year-old son and another family. And we just hung out, climbing up boulders. And if you like climbing, you can see over on that side, there's these beautiful rocky outcrops, old volcanic sediments that have been uplifted. They're great for kids to go scrambling up and down. We only saw one rattlesnake while we were there.
Oh my God!
No scorpions. So we've had no problem letting our 6-year-olds just go, roaming on their own, and they've been fine. So it's not tragic, especially around the campgrounds. Like things stay away from there. Yeah. But it's a beautiful place. Very, very kind of surreal. If you like the desert, I always stand and think about how long I would survive if I was just to be dropped into the middle of a place like this, and it's pretty ridiculous how short, how poorly adapted we are to living in these conditions. But it just I don't know what more you want me to do with this. Do you want to move through some of the scenes, Sky, or I haven't done one of these meetups yet before? So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, that's when Daryl and I did one with Katahdin Hike and Drift, and that's sort of what I did. I just sort of went through I mean, that's definitely more of like a linear story where we were like hiking from one place to the next, but it still seems like it might be cool to do that kind of linear fashion. Yeah, so why don't we go to the next scene? Yeah.
I will make a point. There's something that wasn't in the drift here. There's a bush off right next to the large Joshua Tree. You can see kind of in front of you where I'm pointing here. That's a Creosote Bush, and they're really, really well adapted to desert conditions. They have root systems that go down like to 60 feet or so, 65 feet. Not just another cool plant that grows out there. All right, so let me then.
Yeah, the trees themselves are pretty trippy. I mean, it's like
very
not
very
like
unique.
Eastern pine, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, this next one I think is probably my favorite scene in this, where it was kind of unintentional where I ended up sitting. It ended up being the perfect place for where I then have this like projected geology lesson to try and explain how these rocks came to be, starting some 200 million years ago or so. And so it was kind of fun to go do this in post and be like, hey, I look like I'm looking at a giant TV screen.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And this one, I think, so this was right after that first opening scene where, I climbed up early morning to try and catch the sunrise at the top. So I went up on my own, and honestly, I was quite hungover. It was our last night, the night before, and we had a little bit too much wine at the campfire. And so traversing up there, not feeling very great was a bit of a mission, but I did it. But the geology is super cool. And my background is I'm actually a microbiologist by training. I got my PhD at Princeton doing geomicrobiology, and so I was studying bacteria deep in the earth. So we would go down the gold mines of South Africa, trying to see how far into the earth life extends as an analogous environment for life on other planets. We were part of a NASA astrobiology group.
Wow.
And so I have the geology side a bit, but I'm mostly a biologist. And so I know enough geology to be dangerous. But essentially, it was basically the Pacific plate, the continent and the continental plate of the U.S. that the Pacific plate submerged or subducted underneath the North American plate, heated up, released gas and water that ended up making these large magma chambers right below the surface that then eroded away. And then, this is essentially what we're looking at, is this old magma chamber that was previously buried that has now been exposed at the surface. And so you're looking at rocks that are, 200 million odd years old, and you can tell that based on the types of rocks they are. It's called gneiss, Gneiss, and basically geologists know where that type of rock must have been formed based on its mineralogy. So you can say, well, it must have been formed at this temperature and this pressure, which meant that it must have been X, 1,000 feet deep below the earth at some point, and right, interacting with these other minerals or oxygenated water or not.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to find the next link because it's behind someone's head.
Before you do,
oh yeah, sorry. I'll pause it.
I cannot help but wonder.
Just in the last one, there's this awesome, like right behind the main scene. First of all, I mean, it's just such a gorgeous shot with the morning light coming in. Just looks incredible. But then behind the main scene, if you turn around, there's this like little. It looks like alfalfa sprouts, and they're just like growing out from the rock that's there.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome. I mean, especially in the stereoscopic, I feel like you can like really see the three-dimensionality of some of these like smaller, just these like hard scrabble plants that are coming out of just growing out between the rocks. Just such a neat thing to see. And there's amazing.
It's really cool, right? Too. It shows you how resilient life.
Right. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. Yeah, this one you can kind of make out some of them too. This one's actually kind of funny. It feels like you're totally secluded and you really are out in the middle of nowhere. But if you were to climb over the rocks that are behind me on here, you're on the other side of the plain. There's the major road that runs through the park.
Oh really?
So I just parked the car with my wife and child in it. We're on our way out, and I was like, I gotta get one that feels like I'm completely alone with the Joshua trees.
Yeah.
Ran over the back quick.
Nice.
What did you say you filmed this with?
An Insta360 Pro 2.
Pro 2. Okay.
Yeah. And so this one was this was more just that there's this massive like valley filled with Joshua trees stretching from, our side where we're standing looking out across the others. I wasn't able to film. I mean, I would have been able to film one of the locations where they have the native Indian inscriptions and stuff, but there were just lots of people on all of those trails and things, and I'd prefer to have the raw natural scenery, so I didn't film at those, but I used this scene to kind of introduce some of the petroglyphs and things that have been inscribed on the rocks around here, and there's tons of them. I think probably one of the saddest stories and one of the most famous series of rock paintings is essentially Hollywood came through. I think it was in the 60s, some production company, and they wanted to do a scene where they were filming with these American Indian petroglyphs, and they decided that they didn't pop enough, so they painted over them.
Oh my God.
And made their own little depictions as how they thought that Hollywood should see them. And they painted over these ancient things. But what's also cool is that there are a lot of undiscovered ones out here, and a lot of them are found by people like rock climbers and things who go out, and there's a lot on the rock climbing routes that have not been reported that a lot of the climbers know are there. The family I went with, they're a big rock climbing family, and they know of multiple locations where there are these petroglyphs that haven't been reported, because as soon as they're reported, it has to become a protected area, and then the rock climbers can't climb there. So they have this unwritten code that they're like, if you find them, don't touch them, don't do anything, just leave them be. But it's apparently all over the place here. And so I think if you spent a lot of time, you'd probably end up discovering some that perhaps people haven't seen for, hundreds of years.
Wow. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sheer size of this valley is like pretty. I mean, so is the whole park like this? Like these just sort of valleys and then these piles of rocks and boulders and then more valleys beyond them?
Yeah, the thing I like about Joshua Tree is that it changes quite dramatically. There's two deserts out there. There's the Mojave and then the Sonoran, I think it is, down towards the south, which is more like the painted desert side of things. And there's a couple of things that go along with that. Is that the geology changes quite significantly. It becomes a bit more dramatic to the south. But the vegetation also changes. Like the Joshua trees will thin out, but then you get these incredible habitats for certain vegetation that only grow within a certain elevation range, and some of them are extremely narrow, like a 500 to 1,000 foot elevation range, and so they will only grow in that band, no higher, no lower, and you will only find them in that area. So you see as you drive through the park, which doesn't take that long, I mean, you can do it in an hour from start to finish, you will see just this incredible change between two different types of deserts. And yeah, it's a super, super cool place to come and visit, I think. And that remains accessible and is pretty easy. It's not, the same as going to the Grand Canyon and then having to, take a donkey pack mule down to the bottom or anything like that. It's something that you can enjoy in a day if you only have one day and you're close to LA.
Right. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, very cool.
Okay,
it reminds me actually of that Katahdin drift I made. So like Katahdin's the biggest mountain in Maine, and it's actually just like a giant piece of granite that it used to be like all the ground used to be at the level of at that level. At the top it's kind of like plateau like. And then everything else eroded, and it basically just is like remaining at that level of elevation. So there's at least one species of butterfly that only lives at the very top of Katahdin, and that's like literally the only place it lives on Earth. And it's not very impressive. I've never seen one, but they're just these like little brown butterflies. But it's like it's tall enough that it's like it is actually a different ecosystem. And the butterfly can't survive anywhere else, and it probably doesn't have, it can't really migrate because it would have to cross, thousands of miles where there's nothing even resembling that ecosystem before it can get to anywhere else that it could become.
I'm guessing being brown on the top of a mountain is probably a good evolutionary strategy, though, to just blend in with rocks, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think it would work very well if it was, bright yellow or something.
Yeah. So you can see some of the petroglyphs on the rocks on these ones. These are not my own images. I just pulled in some things from the web.
Oh, really? Where are those?
Yeah. Behind you.
Yeah.
For me, it already played through. So they're images that he added.
Oh,
to
I
the video.
see. Oh, I see.
Oh, interesting. So yours already played through.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're not synced.
Let me move through to the next scene. All right, so we'll go to.
Somewhere.
I figured if I paused mine, it would pause for everyone, but no. So this is now a place called Barker Dam, which you can see if you look at the rocks opposite you. You can see some of the high water level marks that run across all the way around here, and so it'll probably be at the top of your head. Or is Alex still the tallest person in the room? No, he's come down to our level.
No, I've sit down.
Thank you for joining us, mere mortals. And so this was obviously a man-made impact, which I'm not a huge fan of in general, is seeing these beautiful places that have been altered by man. But it's, it's part of the history of the place. It's, human beings come to places and try to make life more manageable. So they basically dammed up the section just around the corner behind these green trees. There's a dam wall across that side to, during the rainy season at least anyway, fill this what is now a basin up with water, and then have a pipe that went over the top to fill up water troughs for cattle, because this whole area was really, really fertile and had some incredible valleys with a lot of grasses and stuff. So there's a place called Hidden Valley that a lot of ranchers try to hide their cattle and horses in at various times. It was very hard to get to, but it was incredibly fertile, tons of stuff to eat. And so there was a lot of cattle ranching that happened around here historically. And so they try to dam this up and fill it up with water at that time. There's not really a lot else to say in this one. It was just another interesting segment.
Gotcha. Is that where Hidden
the
Valley
animals
Ranch
one kind of
comes from?
Well, this place seems foreign to me.
Sorry, what was that, Alec?
Is that where Hidden Valley Ranch comes from?
I think maybe it does. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe. So this one was another morning hike, kind of down near our base camp that we would just head out to every morning, and it's kind of like a mile-long loop. So it was great for the 2 6-year-olds to go and walk along. This was where we saw the rattlesnake. I didn't have my 360 camera with me when that happened. We got a video on phone that I probably should have embedded in this video. I just kind of ran out of time when I wanted to upload it. But yeah, so we saw rattlesnakes. When I was at that sunrise on the mountaintop scene, there was one of the kangaroo rat. That's the last animal that shows up here. Tons of these chuckwallas that are pretty decent size. That one there is probably, I don't know, like 5 to 6 inches long, and they're an inch to 2 wide. But it's pretty crazy that they were basically a delicacy of some of the native Indian people who lived around here, and they used to be hunted with pointed sticks. So they would go into the crevices in the rocks, and they inflate their lungs to such a proportion that they just wedge themselves in, and they can't be. I'm guessing they were. That was probably the pressure of being pulled out of the crevice rather than the pointed stick thing. But I think the pointed stick came after the inflated lung evolutionary change. But yeah, it's pretty crazy that they can do that.
Totally.
And then the kangaroo rats are just super cute and tiny, and they're just scurrying around your campsites all the time. Loads of little ground squirrels and other little rodents as well the whole time. But I'm trying to remember where we go from here. Oh yeah, we get a nice sunset to wrap everything up after here.
I was in New York over the weekend, and I got to see some natural fauna as well. Primarily rats.
Yeah, probably the size of cats.
It's funny. It's like, I don't know. It's such a stereotype, but then you go down to the subway and you're like, oh yeah, there's tons of rats down here.
Yeah.
Forget about
that. So this was just a nice sunset on our, I believe this. No, this is actually. I think this was the first night there, but there was a nice crescent moon up there that you could see as well. And then our camp was just back behind us, behind the big boulder right here. So it's you can literally go and hang out at these awesome places. And I think the campsites are something ridiculous, like $28 a night or something for and you can have 2 families there. So it ends up being per person it's maybe $5 a night. It's just ridiculous. And if you have kids, it's just like it's really fun to just go scampering up these little back things. Like we called this the notch behind us, and that was a cool hike for the kids to try and get up to in the daytime. And it maybe quarter of a mile up and back for them, which is a lot of exercise for them, but super fun. And it's the kind of place that draws people who really love nature as well. So the campsites are quiet. There's no music. There's no drones flying around or any of that sort of stuff. So it was it's a really fantastic place to go and visit if you haven't been and you get the chance.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful site right here.
Yeah. And obviously, it's the stereo effect kind of gets lost a little bit more at dusk because the Insta360 Pro 2 doesn't do great with low light, which is a bit of a challenge for my underwater work because there's not a lot of light down there either. But I try to stick to the anything 40 feet and shallower for the underwater work.
Gotcha.
Well, anyway, thanks for sharing this. It's been nice meeting you guys as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you for
showing
coming.
us around.
Did we
It's
lose?
really
Did
cool.
we lose Eric and Seth? Eric.
Oh,
Seth?
maybe.
Are they hiding?
If you're
behind the
here,
rock?
say something.
Hiding
I
behind a
think so.
boulder.
Yeah, there's only 4 of
Yeah.
us right now.
Oh,
That's a bummer.
lost in translation.
Yeah, very cool though. Fantastic drift. Really one of my favorites. And
Thank you.
yeah, maybe now I feel inspired to go check out Joshua Tree National Park.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's
Is
cool
there
that
a-
it's like a day trip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
an
I mean, we went for 4 days, and like being there a little longer is nicer. But it's
Mhm.
absolutely if you can just pop out to do it for a bit, you can totally have a good day out there.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an entrance fee to the park itself, or is it just the cost of camp?
No, it's there is. So this is Indian Cove Campground, which there is no fee to get into because it's odd. It's on the northern side of the park. And so you drive into it without actually crossing the park border, but it's technically, if you walk, you can do a day hike over the mountains where I'm pointing off to that side where that white camper van is. If you go over there, it's a 5-mile hike, and then you're in the park.
Okay.
But you have to drive out and round to get in, and I believe it was $30 for a pass, but you can use that over multiple days.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's not
Nice.
bad at all.
No,
Yeah,
that sounds
no,
totally
that's
worth.
That's about what it is to get into most of the parks up here in Maine.
Okay. Yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, I think that was a successful drift.
Nice.
I don't even know what to call these things. Drift.
I just call them meetups.
A drift up?
Drift
No,
up.
yep, a drift up. I mean, we can call them parties now. I mean, we got the party mode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Woo. Yeah, we should have like a feature that's like, like you should have like expression buttons or something you can press, and one of them is like just sends out little, streamers or whatever. It's like an emoji, right? Like an emoji,
Or you
but-
could do a nice nuclear bomb from the top of your head if your mind's blown, right?
Right. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Like every time somebody joins the party, it just like that time before their heads pop in, like right then, just confetti, and then there they are, like, hello, I'm here.
I see.
Welcome to the party.
No, yeah, what would be cool is if you could get like a Terminator effect. You know how when like the Terminators they like time travel, like lightning strikes and then just like sizzles around their bodies for a while, and then
Yes.
maybe a little bit overly dramatic, but
I'm not sure why, but when you said Terminator effect, I was thinking when, like, at the end of the when he's in the lava and he's just like,
right. Yeah, except emerging, you just like crawl your way out of. Yeah, a lot of pretty awesome opportunities there.